In trucking, every minute counts. That's why QuickQ delivers smart, secure payment solutions designed to keep your fleet moving. From our innovative SmartQ RFID system that stops fraud at the pump, to our factoring company fuel card programs that help fleets get fast, reliable access to funds and fuel discounts, QuickQ simplifies your payments and keeps your cash flowing. And it all comes backed by customer service that's second to none. Make it simple, make it secure, make it QuickQ. Visit quickq.com to learn more.
Welcome to Loaded and Rolling. I'm your host, Thomas Watson, and today's topic is distracted driving. Turns out it's a big problem, not only for motorists, but for trucking fleets as well. And so we're going to be talking with a guest shortly, the folks at Samsara. They're an ELD and telematics provider. They had recently released a report called The State of Connected Operations Behind the Wheel, Distracted Driving in Physical Operations. And so we're super excited to have Johan Land joining us today. He is the EVP of Product and Engineering at Samsara. And Johan, it's a pleasure to have you on today. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And thanks for having me talk about such an important topic. I'm really looking forward to it.
Before we dive into the topic, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a tech guy. I've been in that for a long time. But in my prior life to that, I've done all kinds of things, including some time in buses. I've worked in them. My dad was also in this. He was a truck driver in Sweden, where I'm originally from, and that's kind of where my interest for this has come from. And there've been some accidents in my family as well. My brother almost actually passed away in a bus accident. So that's my calling to work on safety. So this is very special to me.
It's super important. I mean, it's diesel. They would say in the US, diesel runs in your veins. Well, let's talk about this report because, safety is super important, and it's especially with the rise in technology, there's a lot more things we can do about it, but there were some interesting facts from it. Before we dive into the specific facts, tell us about this report and kind of what was the process that went into making it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and the calling to this was really distracted driving is on a rise. It's about 28% of all accidents, all commercial accidents in the US, and it's rising very quickly, driven by mostly the mobile phone. So we wanted to look deeper into this and truly try to understand it to help people improve. So what we did is that we ran a survey with about 1,500 drivers across a set of industries and actually across a set of countries as well, and experienced drivers. And we asked them various questions to just go a lot deeper into this. So that was the methodology. And of course, in addition to that, we have a network that is just enormous, with 2 million vehicles or so. We have hundreds of billions of minutes of video that we analyze. So like that adds to it. But specifically here, we were doing a survey directed at about 1,500 drivers.
And some of the key some of the key insights. One of the wildest one that I saw, nearly 80%, 79% of drivers had a near miss in the past year due to a distraction. That's a crazy and alarming number because I can only imagine, well, if I'm not distracted, it's the other people around me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's true. And that's aligned with what we see in our data as well. It's a very prevalent problem. And it's not just for personal usage either. About 74% of drivers use the mobile phone for work. So this is something that is actually relevant in how you operate your business and operation. So it's absolutely very, very prevalent. And it's the deeper you dig into this problem, the more urgent it becomes. So one thing that I do as part of my job, my day to day, is that I look at these situations and look at how they play out, and I see it all. And often it's not just a single event either, like a single usage of mobile phone, but it's a repeat usage. It starts off with a little bit, and then you'd use later in the day or several times an hour. And when that repeat usage isn't addressed, it can lead to terrible things, absolutely terrible. And the mobile phone is at the very center of it.
And that's one of those things like in the past when I first started in trucking back in 14, it was very reactive. There weren't cameras facing the driver. You didn't really know what they were up to. But now with the technology, it's clusters of behaviors. Tell us a little bit about that. So is it kind of like the cell phone's like the gateway drug? Once I look at it, I'm more statistically likely to stare at it, and then the more I stare at it, it becomes a habit. Or what were some of the cool insights on that? Because I never would have thought that even cell phone usage, kind of like drowsiness, could be something that you would see in these clusters.
Yeah. No, the clustering is important. So what we see is that some drivers, they pick up their phone, and then what our technology does, if you have it in the vehicle, is that we actually detect that in real time and we ask them to put it away. And most drivers, they respond to that and they simply put it away. But then we have the drivers that kind of tend to ignore this, and they becomes a habit, and they just keep going. And those are the riskiest cases. And we try, that's the clustering I think you're referring to. Is like we try to separate these. Those that are one-off, well-intended driver, they're trying to do the right things and they self-adjust when it's called out for them. And then we have the more persistent drivers that needs a little bit more of a nudge. They needs kind of often the best way of helping them is actually to show them the video. You just show them, hey, this is what we're seeing, and not just a video of them picking up the phone, but also what it does to them when they're in traffic. Like I had an example that I looked at just the other day. Driver that picked it up, and then they started swerving out of the lane and drifting a little bit, and then they picked it up, right? So when you show those types of videos to a driver, in most cases that helps them self-correct. That's also what we saw in the survey. 93% of drivers said that when they have seen a video of themselves, it influenced them to do better. So it's a self-correcting thing that can be handled, but you need to detect it, you need to address it, you need to work with the drivers, you need to truly understand which cases to pay attention to as well.
That's what I was curious about is how do you kind of separate the signal from the noise and find those drivers who are the habitual users? Because I can imagine that in the past conversations were hard where the driver goes, we don't know what it's like. And now with the data, I can clearly show you the video of not only the swerving, but the phone usage. And it's almost like there's nowhere to hide. So it's kind of showing a mirror to this behavior.
Yeah. Well, there's that aspect of nowhere to hide, and we often get that from drivers. But there's also a great upside from this, as in I want to stress that the vast majority of drivers, they're doing good and they self-correct. And then what we see as the best practice, and it's very effective, is actually to, rather than use this as a penalizing thing and telling drivers where they're doing wrong, identify where they do good. Like, so we have these things of we measure how long time a driver has been driving without picking up their mobile phone, and we recognize that. We call it streaks or achievements. We get a little bit of a badge. To that we even tie rewards. So like it becomes a gamified a sort of system around doing good, recognizing that, and improving. So it's a very positive spirit, and that's when we see the biggest and most impact from this, when you do it in a balanced fashion. This is not too surprising. That's usually how, if you want to help someone improve and give them feedback, the best way is seldom to just tell them everything they're doing wrong. Like you need to have a balanced approach to it. So that's also built into what we see as best practice here.
And looking through the survey data, having these 2 million plus vehicles in this network, is there ever any interesting insights? Like, was distraction something across all types of vehicles, or was it maybe buses, heavy trucks, construction equipment? Was there any kind of interesting layers as you're diving through this data that kind of stood out? Because I can imagine if I'm in like a dump truck, I'm sitting around waiting to get loaded. I may be surfing my phone while I'm on a long haul trucker. I may be having to drive for 10 hours a day. I don't really have as much time.
Yeah, so we don't pay so much attention to it when you're standing still. Then we view it as that's okay if it's not at a traffic light or something. But if you're stationary or the vehicle is turned off or something like that, then that's okay. But we do see this as widespread. We see it in full semi trucks, long haul. FTL, LTL, we see it as more in fleet services, where someone would be in a regular F-150 kind of truck. We see it widespread everywhere. It takes a little bit of a different shape. If you're doing sort of field services, you may be driving somewhere, doing a job, and then you're driving somewhere else for like 15, 20 minutes, and you need to kind of look up the direction and such. So then it's a different type of behavior. Whereas on the long haul, we see other types of things. We see things like people driving on a long straight road and just fiddling with their phone in a very continuous way, as opposed to on the more field services setup. But it's widespread, it's all industries, and it's all types of drivers. It's all types of tenures of drivers as well. You would think that you could imagine it's more of the younger or the newer drivers that would do this, but no, it's like widespread everywhere.
So you almost have an insight in the proliferation of these devices. I like the fact that you mentioned that the technology and the AI is to a point where I can tell maybe I'm reading a message from my dispatcher real quick. Maybe out of course correction, I look at it, I put it down. But then at the same time, it's almost like I'm assuming there's different behaviors for now I'm checking my Facebook feed while I'm driving.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And how fleets should relate to this is very important, because it's not just about safety. It's also the law. For every state except I think it's Montana, it's illegal to use your phone and text while driving. So it's something that you need to think about how you implement in your workflow. And if you have navigation or work orders or those types of things on a mobile device, you need to ensure that drivers do that in a safe fashion.
And let's look at this real quick here as well. One of the impacts of distracted driving, more than 9 out of 10 drivers have been impacted. The top 6 ways personally experienced included 37% damage to vehicles. We're around the 30% range. Personal injury, fines, suspension, legal trouble. I was very shocked by the higher insurance or losing your license. I mean, I'm assuming it's just a cascading chain reaction. And so you're looking at your phone, you crash into something, and then they kind of like combine into something.
Yeah, yeah. No, and it impacts in many different ways. And I think if I were a fleet, like I would think carefully about this problem and really ensure I understand what it looks like inside of my fleet. And sometimes when I talk to customers that haven't experienced this technology, I hear things like, well, we don't have a mobile phone problem in our fleet. I often hear that because we have special drivers and so. I've never seen a fleet that doesn't have this problem. Everyone has it. And it's the first thing to do to address this type of a problem is really to recognize that you have one. And the way to do that is to start getting some visibility on it. Cameras is a great way of doing that. There might be other ways, but it's a very impactful. The types of things that you see once you turn it on, I haven't seen anyone not being scared of it. And in particular, it's not just it's some of the cases are harmless, but when you start looking at them leading to crashes, and I've seen that in many cases, that's part of what I have to do in order to like understand how it links to crashes, and it's very upsetting when you see it. Someone is on their phone. I had one a couple of weeks ago on their phone, driving against a red light, T-boning a vehicle. And then afterwards, they kind of hide the phone away to try to sort of like it wasn't.
Oh no!
Yeah, you see it all.
Oh man, that's like after the fact. It's like you're in trouble. Another one is I'm looking at when I manage fleets. One thing as well as drowsiness and fatigue and tiredness. Oftentimes, drivers would not tell you if they're tired. They feel they got to push through it. I've got to make up this time. And then sometimes they say they're drowsy and they wouldn't have worked at all. And you're like, are you BSing me? One of the facts you all had in this report was 67% of drivers experienced drowsiness at least sometimes while driving. Tell us a little bit about that as well, because you can be distracted and you can also be distracted because you're extremely tired.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So this is a very nuanced thing because I think we all yawn at times. We all yawn at driving as well, and that doesn't mean that you are in a dangerous state or your driving is at danger. So what we do when it comes to drowsiness is we have a very sophisticated way of detecting this. It's all using AI. It's using 17 different ways. It looks at your eyes, whether they're closed, contractions in your face, staring gaze, nodding off, etc. So it is taking that holistically over some time and making an assertion as to whether this is a drowsy person. And then we study those events over the whole trip or even over several days to see, is there a pattern here? And we discover a lot of different things there. It's including things like when you see it. I had one customer that had a drowsiness and it was over several days. And they sat down and spoke to this driver, and he had the family event that it was also very rough nature. Someone had passed away in the family, and that was what affected his work. He couldn't sleep at night. So you discover these types of things that you otherwise wouldn't have done, which are very explainable. But when you don't do that, it leads to really bad outcomes. I had one. This didn't lead to bad outcome, but it was an example of someone having both drowsiness and mobile phone. They were driving in the middle of the night, and I think they were using their mobile phone to kind of stay awake or so. But then eventually, literally fell asleep, drifted off, and woke up as the vehicle was bouncing on the side of the road. No accident involved. But the saddest thing was that 10 minutes later, that guy was back on his phone. It's like,
No.
that's a rough one, and that's when you need an intervention. Like, you need to observe these types of things to know that they're happening. You need to differentiate between the drivers, the self-correct, and they understand the dangers, and when they see themselves, they understand it, and they change their behavior, to those that are not. And then you need to sit down with them and really explain. But it's absolutely crucial to do that, especially in this day and age with nuclear verdicts. The median nuclear verdict is now $21 million. That can be a terrible event even for the largest of fleets, let alone that people are dying in this. So it's absolutely, this needs attention.
And it could put you out of business. Smaller fleets, all you need is a $21 million verdict. We've saw instances where if it was bad enough, they'll sue the trailer maker, the truck maker, like there was the Wabash incident as well. That's a huge. I guess there's a real big imperative for these fleets to invest in these safety things, because even the basic insurance of your fleets, it's like what, $750,000. There's not enough insurance to even cover you if you get in an accident. So you got to find other ways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's why you need to do this properly, and you need to have visibility on things. Like, you need to recognize you have a problem, get visibility on it, and then put together a plan to address it. Like, you need a safety program, and these problems look different in different fleets. So you need to observe it and then create a plan, and then you need to drive towards it. As in, like, you need to, and that is a multifaceted part to it. Like, it's both like identifying what's going wrong, informing drivers, helping them improve, addressing the most outrageous situations and the outrageous sources of risk, but then you need to do it in a positive spirit. Like, bring the drivers with you, gamify it, recognize when they do good things, etc. Like, so, but if you do this holistically, like, we see all kinds of things. But like, you can see real big impacts. I had some an example with Dorn Transfer Company, and one of our customers. They saw like an 88% reduction in their events. So, like, you can see those types of things with a really sophisticated program. I wouldn't set that as the expectation. It takes some time to build up and some learning for the organization, but it can make a huge impact this time.
And does that also help fleets, I'm assuming, get better insurance? I can imagine if I'm using a telematics provider that has these capabilities, I can say, look, you have a blanket policy. You assume all these vehicles have set standards, but I'm actually doing more work. I can show you the data, and then I can get like a better rate. Do you kind of see that a lot of these fleets, maybe there's a bifurcation between the tech-savvy, safe fleets, and then the other fleets are like, I can't really afford this right now, but then they're putting themselves at risk?
Yeah, absolutely. We see it. Like, we have insurance companies that if you have cameras installed, you get a lower premium, and it's even more recognized by those fleets that are large and are effectively self-insuring, or the insurance caps out and doesn't protect them from the nuclear verdicts. Then it's even more tangible how important they feel this is. But yeah, insurers are absolutely recognizing the numbers. The numbers speak for themselves. It's very solid from that standpoint.
And looking ahead, as not only is it combating distraction, it's helping combat drowsiness. Is there an opportunity where I heard one instance, someone told me front facing cameras, some of them can like detect if you have sleep apnea. It's like, you're getting poor quality sleep, you have a certain level of drowsiness, and then they isolate it. I mean, I'm assuming this can help out with driver health as well, in terms of capabilities, which is astounding. I never thought the AI would be able to, potentially say, hey, you should go talk to a doctor. You may need like a sleep
Yeah.
test.
Yeah, I think that's probably where this is going, right? Like, understanding the driver. And the way we think about this is that we want to be a driver first, a very driver centric technology where we support them. And that's the very opposite of being a very penalizing or detecting everything goes wrong. We want to be with the drivers, helping them improve. because like the only and that takes understanding them deeply, not just the events but the patterns between and potentially the underlying causes of it. So that's how we think about this, because the only way of preventing an accident, a preventable accident, which is about 87% of accidents, the only way to do that is to have the drivers change behavior. And for the drivers to change behavior, they need to want to do that, and you need to be supportive and help them to do that.
And does this kind of open the door? I know when I worked at some large fleets, trying to coach and train drivers, you had driver trainers, you just got your CDL, you're on the road with a trainer. I'm assuming that also can help out where the trainer and other coaching opportunities, in addition to safety, is where, hey, I saw you did this. Here's the footage. Here's what we were looking at. And you can actually critique them instead of, waiting at the end of the day and not really having much of a conversation. This opens doors into other avenues with this tech.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do that both automatically, where the AI is sifting through and kind of highlighting and showing that to the drivers. We think of that as being mostly applicable to the low-risk drivers that can self-correct. And then then we have manager coaching, where we would put together all the events and a little bit of like the synthesis, but then there would be a person actually speaking with the driver. But that's instrumental in helping them improve and driving behavior change.
And let's talk about implementation. I'm a safety and compliance department. A lot of times I was very reactive, got an angry call, got to counsel somebody. With the technology and the AI now, are you seeing a lot of fleets adopt it is there any kind of automation where I can send them like a recap every day or week or month? Or is it something right now where the automation is where I can finally sift through all this data and find the stuff that I never really could see before and then have the conversations on the front end?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a full synthesis. You can think of it as in the vehicle, we have the AI analyze everything that is happening. Then we upload it to the cloud, and then we have even more AI analyzing that, including the newest. If you've used ChatGPT, we're using the newest models from OpenAI to effectively extract the full synthesis, and then we present that in different ways for different parts of the organization. Towards the driver, we show them the events they had and some things that they can improve, including training. For the safety manager, for the location, they can see these are all my drivers within my 50 or 100 drivers. These are the riskiest ones. This is why. These are the patterns that I'm seeing. But also, these are some good things that my drivers did and that I can highlight, and we help them run sort of a group setting. And then for the VP of safety or something like that, we have an even aggregation of this is what the whole pattern looks like for your whole organization, and where the buckets are of risk and how the program overall is progressing.
And do fleets, when we're looking at those KPIs, one of my biggest questions I always was curious about was, I was an ops guy, so normally a safety guy had to yell at me to yell at a driver. So when we're looking at those big buckets to say that I'm reducing it, are fleets turning to like an amalgamated safety score, like a Samsara score or something, or are they looking at instances of distraction or hours of service log violations? For fleets who are looking to kind of set this up, use the technology, what are they most commonly measuring now with these capabilities to know how they're doing?
Yeah. The most common way is to have a safety score. And that safety score is sort of a calculation that aggregates the different events and the sources of risk that you've seen over time. And then you use this safety score to kind of identify who are my safe drivers and who are the drivers that I need to work with. And that safety score also extracts why those drivers need support, so it guides you onto what actions you should be taking. So that's the most common way of working with this.
Perfect. And Johan, really appreciate your time as well. We're running low on time, so I wanted to make sure if folks want to learn more about Samsara, check out this report, get more info, give us the details.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, please come visit our website. It's available right there. And eager to, if anyone is interested, like to step more into this, eager to help and jump in. To me, this is, as I was saying in the beginning, like this is a personal calling. So anyone that wants to make their fleets safer, I'm all yours, and I really want to help out them. We built a good set of products that can do this. So.
And we really do appreciate your time as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're looking forward to catching up again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
That's going to be a wrap for this episode. If you're just joining us, this will also be on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you can find your podcast. While you are there, sign up for the Loaded and Rolling newsletter. It's freightwaves.com/loaded and rolling. We have the newsletter. It goes out every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. That is a wrap for this episode. Really, really great stuff. Check out the folks at Samsara. Really cool technology in the safety space. And we're going to have a lot more great content coming up soon, though. So I will catch you next week. See you soon.